We're live. Hello everyone.
Hello.
This should be us. And now here's the bit which I feel like we've done this is episode 6 now, and I feel like episode 6 we always start with the "Can you actually hear us?" where we wait for the "Can you hear us?" message. But I guess it's good to have traditions, isn't it? So without further ado, and here's the bit where I realize that I can't actually see these messages coming through, so I'm just going to assume that we're audible. But yes, hello everyone, and welcome to the Beyond Screens Alternative Controller Show. My name is Alistair, and with me, as always, is my co-host Tatiana.
Hello. And in this show, we invite creators of alt-control video games to tell us about their work and show us what they're working on.
So, for those of you who may be new to the world of alt control, these are video games made to be played using unusual custom-made controllers. So, for example, a game might be controlled using a door stopper, or maybe an electric guitar, or maybe even a bowl of custard. Or the creator might... That's true, it's true. There is a Punch the Custard. It's out there, it exists in the world, and it is a wonderful piece of work. But I digress. Yes, so for example, including these many things, the creator might also decide to make a totally new object made by soldering together their own electronic components.
And today's guest is Yann Seznec, or I don't know, Yann Seznec. Yann is an artist whose work focuses on sound, music, physical interaction, games, and building new instruments. And much of his work involves building custom instruments such as musical pigsties, slinky instruments, candle-based sound installations, electromechanical mushroom spore reactors, you'll see this one, and much more. And his last project is Robots for Distant Musicians. It's a set of musically responsive robots that can be controlled online.
And not only can these robots be controlled online, but they can be controlled online by you, the viewer at home. If you look down on the bottom left of your screen right now, you will see a link to Discord. And if you log on to Discord at that link, you'll be able to join the Robots for Distant Musicians room and pilot a robot yourself. Now, we'll be joining you and Yann in this Discord room later in the show to play around with these robots live on air.
Yeah, by you, we mean you, the viewer at home, like the audience right now. You can connect on Discord. The link is in the chat right now. And before we welcome Yann to the stream, let's see this project in action.
Yes, let's cue that up.
Let's do it. Let's try to score this goal.
Good luck.
Here we go. I'll go into robot 2. You go into robot 1. Okay, let's do it.
So, you have seen the robots in action, but now you can see them live on action on air as we welcome our guest to the show. Please welcome everyone. Big round of applause for Yann Seznec.
Oh, thank you. That's a lot of applause. Thank you very much. Very pleased to be here. And thank you, Tatiana, for the authentic pronunciation of the name. I appreciate it.
I'm trying my best.
Yeah, for once, I have an advantage here. Like usually Alistair has it. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on the show with such a great piece. And like you know the drill, so we will talk about robots for distant musicians first, and then we will enter a bit into your background, what happens for you to start making all control games, basically.
Cool.
But let's start with robots for distant musicians. What happened?
Well, yeah, that's a good project. Good question. How did this happen? This project came about. I don't know. I think a lot of my thoughts on it now are in retrospect, of course, because you finish a project and suddenly you feel like, oh yeah, this is the thing that I was aiming for the whole time, but it's never the case, right? So I actually started last year doing collaborations with musician friends of mine from around the world, kind of looking at how we could use these horrible communication methods we're using now to kind of play music and play with sound and do something interesting with the sound that wasn't trying to force the video chat conference systems that were designed for corporate business meetings to do something. There's no point in trying to use them in a kind of musical or game way completely. Let's try to let's try to break them, right? Let's try to make something that takes advantage of what they do well, but also reveals what they do really poorly. And I think, so for me, it was really about the sound, because I focus on sound a lot. So it's really about looking at what makes the sound of this stuff so interesting. Like for me, the big interesting thing was okay, suddenly March 2020, everybody, how many millions and millions of people around the world for the first time ever opened the audio preferences window of a piece of software, right? That's amazing to me. It never occurred to anybody that there was there could be different mics and there could be different speakers and there could, that never occurred to anyone before. Suddenly everyone's like, oh, what does noise cancellation mean? Where? And then it reveals all these really interesting problems, right? Zoom uses the phrase noise suppression. Isn't suppression a really interesting word to use? Okay, it's a little bit bleak, but fine, that's cool, and then it gets you realize that they're making lots of decisions for you, which is what technology does more and more, right? And so it reveals these interesting problems, I think, with these tools to start trying to use them in a broken way. So of course, sound is really inefficient. It's not a good way of controlling anything anyway. There's a long, wonderful tradition of sound controlled games. As Tatiana, I think you've done some, right? So it's a thing, right? And so I was kind of well, how far can you push that, right? Can we now, then I started, as I was working with these musicians online, it was okay, well, I realized that actually pitch tracking can work pretty well, sort of, if you kind of mess around with it a lot. And so then starting to think, well, what about pitch controlling an actual object somewhere else, right? So then it became pitch controlling robots, and pitch controlling robots that are online. So they're in a room with me, and but you're controlling them in Paris or wherever you are, right? So then that's really how the project was born. And then after that, it was really just working out the details of how to actually make that work.
Yeah, and there's also this godlike feeling of controlling something not only through your voice, for example, but also online. I don't know, it feels like being a superhero somehow.
It's a superhero, but where you're
chaotic, chaotic superhero.
Totally chaotic superhero. And one that you're superheroes have to deal with latency too,
And of course, as we were setting this up, we had all kinds of fun where, the robots, while you had them setting up and we were just talking to each other about setup, the robots were responding to our conversation.
Yeah.
Which,
I've got it switched off now, but because it can get really distracting. If you're sitting there holding a robot and it's just every time you make any noise, it's like, all right, dude, just shut up. Like, leave me alone. Like, just I end up feeling the same way as I do with like small children or animals. Like,
yeah, these sounds make the stuff feels like it's alive, and it's funny because it transitioned well to the beginning of your let's say career or whatever. Like from our researches, your first degree was at Carnegie Mellon University, and your majors were anthropology and music.
yeah.
So it makes sense. Like it feels like the loop is looping somehow.
Yeah, I do end up coming back to that. Like I am really, I don't know if like cultural anthropology is like the study of awkwardness, right? Like it's like the study of why we're all horrible. And so like I think that's also a really good reason to get into games because like I think like games are a really great both study of awkwardness, but also a way of circumventing or overcoming or taking advantage of awkwardness. I think that's, yeah, I don't know. So, and I think that like kind of that people focused thing and that feelings and emotional focused thing, and also the kind of the context of everything is something I'm always really trying to be really aware of. Like, what is it that's actually happening here and why are we doing it? It borrows a lot. I guess a lot of that then starts leaning very heavily into kind of the artistic ways of thinking about things. And then the sound wise, it's just sound and music is just, in a way, it's like, it's almost, that's just like the language that I speak in a way. So it like, I'm not as able to kind of analyze it. It's just like when you grow up speaking a language, you don't know how to speak the language. You just do it, right? So it's like similarly with sound and music, it's just like, it's just my first instinct. I'm like, yeah, let's play sound at it and see. Like, so I have a harder time justifying why I do that, other than it's just like great and fun and interesting.
Yeah, your whole background from the get-go was in music. Like you had a master in sound design, you made music by yourself with the amazing Rolo, and with your brother, the Seznec bros.
Yeah.
And so it's no surprise that most of your works are related to music, but in many flavors. Like it can be a musical instrument, it can be a video game, but the sound will be procedurally generated. It can be a game with that is controlled with a musical instrument, but it can also be a whole new musical instrument to create. So you basically explored everything around music. I mean,
I've done
all
it
the
all.
tracks.
I've explored it all. There's no more to explore. It's a small world.
There's no more. Yeah. So people working in music, it's too late for you.
Reach the end. Just quit. Yeah. No, there's always more. And it does. I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things where I don't consciously go into it with that necessarily. It's just like, whatever seems like the best medium for the message I'm trying to convey or the thing I'm trying to explore, then I dig into that,
And some of those were games and playful experiences. And from what I understood, this is how you found yourself founding Luckyframe, which is a creative studio that you founded in Edinburgh in 2008. Did I get that correctly? Yeah.
Yeah, just about. Yeah, Edinburgh I lived in Scotland for a long time. And yeah, I founded a little company there, which was, games, the games world. I don't know. I have mixed feelings on the actual games world, right? It's like video games, because it was really the closest I came to being sort of video games world. And, we made games and we released them, and we were like, we were focused mainly on music games to begin with. But then we actually did end up branching out into sort of alt control things, and then experimental games, and then a couple just like the interesting games we wanted to make. And there were only 3 of us. We were tiny, and it was great. And in some ways we were like, maybe not at that like peak of the supposed indie game like golden age, but like maybe just past it. So we like had one game that did quite well in Bad Hotel, and got like, we sold some copies and everything. And then I don't know, I got quite disillusioned, I think, maybe with the games world. And it's taken me a long time to kind of get back to the point where I'm like, yeah, games are actually kind of interesting, or video games. It's a messy world, I think. And there's a lot of people look back on that period as this kind of potential golden age, but I'm more nuanced about it, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, for the audience, so Luckyframe released a lot of, well, some games that were on the App Store and Steam, like really traditional indie game, like what you think of when you say indie game. But some of these games that were unconventional, starting from the first one, Wheel Loop Machine. It was family of creative music software for the Wii, the Wiimotes, and it was the very first project that you did, right?
Yeah, I think that's really what let me start the company. So it was, and that was the first kind of like release, I guess. But it was basically a hack. It was just a hack for Wii remotes, and in some ways, I would argue, even though it was using commercially released hardware, I'd say it was probably my first alternative controller thing, because nobody had made a music thing for the Wii remote yet. And it was, oh man, you're playing the video. So this is in 2006 or 7. And there's me.
This will happen a lot.
I have a lot more hair, and I'm less gray. And but yeah, I was fresh faced and making music software for Wii remotes, which had just come out. I mean, they I don't even think it had been released in the UK. I was visiting my family in the US, and I bought some of the Wii remotes and brought them back. And I think really that's why it took off. The video got like loads and loads of views, and I was on TV, and I was on all these. It was kind of early, very small level viral thing, basically, that ended up happening. And it was great. I went all over the place showing this thing off, and I used it in my performances and everything. And there was so much interest in it that I managed to use it to raise some funding to start the company, basically. Long story short, and it was great. I think in a lot of ways, when I look back on it, I was really focused on that as a product. When actually, what was interesting was the process. Right. Was the kind of like, the end result of music software being made for a Wii, great. Like a lot of people can do it. It's cool. But actually what was more interesting was the kind of like, let's try to do something like weird with sound, with movement. And let's try to, or like something that is both weird and also accessible, and try to get something right in between there so people can download it and make sounds that they might not really have expected and map it to movement. I ended up in many ways not liking, I ended up, I've now got a rule where I try never to use any, I don't know how to describe it, like frictionless devices like the Wii remote. I actually don't like them anymore.
What do you mean by frictionless? As in of like totally analog, or like,
No, I mean like the Wii remote is wireless and you just move it. So you just end up moving your arm, right? So you're not pushing up against anything. You're not, there's nothing fighting against you. And I think in a lot of ways that ended up being less interesting to me. Like I ended up realizing that, it's like I find more and more often a lot of interfaces like that don't end up working. Like the Kinect is another good example, right? The Kinect being an interface which is now basically dead, right? And it's or the Leap Motion, right? Like all these kinds of like totally wireless, totally frictionless devices. I think they don't work as a whole, because I think we want to push up against something. I feel like we want resistance. I think we want something that fights back against us so that we feel like we're doing something, or at least certainly in terms of music. Like there's no music, apart from the theremin, there's no real musical instrument that fully is just about like waving your hands, right? Yeah. Like maybe conducting an orchestra is the second closest thing I can come to, maybe. But even then, most people use a baton. So I think I end up being much more interested in things that fight back. I think so. Most of the stuff I've made since then has been stuff that fights back a little bit.
One stuff you did with Luckyframe that was really about resistance was Ruffle Pillar, which is probably the most famous game you made for the alt control
Well,
community, I mean.
in some ways, it's the most famous game we made at all. Like, it's funny, like, obviously, way more people played our digital games, but in a lot, the game that people now talk to me about is Raffle Pillar. So, yeah, Raffle Pillar was a two-player caterpillar simulator where you had to roll on the ground in a caterpillar suit in order to play as a caterpillar. And yeah, that game was absolutely the direct result of what I was just describing, my feeling of like, I want something to fight against me. So Jonathan and I kind of put that thing together. We're using these, I actually have one of the sensors, I just found it in the box, these game track sensors. Have you guys used these?
Oh, no, I've heard tell of them. Because like, so just for context, like, you know, Raffle Pillar, I never got to play it. I saw it was at Game City, and you know, and it was the one year I didn't go to Game City, and I, you know, I'd hear tell of it, and it was one of these things that has always been so inspiring to me, and for me personally has always like is one of the things that got me into alt control. So you know, it's kind of, I have heard tell of these game track controls. I've never seen one in the flesh though. So this is quite a big moment.
I think I bought all of them. That's why. They're amazing. They were like they came out just before the Wii, and they were like a proto movement controller. They're by far my favorite device to hack for alternative games and musical instrument devices. The technical term for them, I think somebody told me, is a rotary string encoder, which I think is just a fancy way of just saying you pull a string and it turns a thing.
Right.
And each game track would have two of these in a base, and you would click a little glove onto the string, and the string is pulled through a joystick. So like what it could do is it could track how far the string was pulled out. So that is technically the height of your hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then also the angle of the pull. So by doing some kind of like real-time trigonometry, I guess they could work out where the end of the string is. And if you do that with both hands and the base is set and you have a calibration period, then you can control stuff in 3 dimensions on a screen.
Right.
And they made 2 versions of it. So if anybody's looking for one of these to hack, I'd highly recommend trying to track down the second version of it, because in the second version that they came out with, each controller is housed in a little special standalone case. And all you have to do is open up the bottom case, and then the whole thing pops out in one. And then all you have to do is hack into the little wires to connect that to your microcontroller or whatever, and it's done. Previous version is a little trickier. They had like pulleys and stuff inside, but this one, you can just have, it's 3 analog outputs. It's 3 potentiometers basically. And then you can connect that to an Arduino or whatever, and you've got 3 12-bit motion controls that you can hook up to anything. And the controller failed completely. They came out with this and then immediately shut it down. And I think they only sold in the UK, so you can find them in charity shops in the UK. So
I'm ideally positioned.
Yeah, I bought every single one I found in Edinburgh and Glasgow. So I don't know, maybe down further south you'll be all right. But they're brilliant. And so the Raffle Pillar was built on this. There's one for each player. The end clicks onto the suit, and this is hidden. The other side is hidden over there, and then it's tracking where your hips are, and that's the whole game.
Right.
This is the mystery behind Raffle Pillar. It was actually at the first Amaze Festival I was exhibiting at. So cool. I have like a fun memory of it, because it was like my first time being in such an event.
It was good. It was. Yeah, I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of that, of being involved in that game for sure.
And also the geeky side of your work is really interesting. I think not only for me, but a big part of our the audience we have, I assume, especially because, so in your works, there is a series of MIDI controllers and preamps and other musical gears that you made by hacking else daily containers like jam jars, cigar boxes, and stuff like this. And also with a lot of electronics. But the thing is, usually when you come from video game, you will find a lot of Arduino connected to maybe Unity or Unreal. The thing is, as you come from music, I saw that you work a lot with pure data, TNCs, MIDI controllers in general. Anyway, electronics, but not the kind of electronics we are necessarily used to. And the project, my favorite one that is embedding all this is Radio Poulard. So maybe we can.
I've got a video up on screen right now.
Go, and there it is.
Tell us about the game. Well,
is it a game? Sure, it's a game. Let's call it a game. I like it. This was a really fun one. I was kind of, like you say, just like kind of slightly cramming together several different technologies that I was playing with at the time. I was playing with a very simple way of just getting MIDI data and manipulating it and playing with it on a code level. So MIDI, if for non-music people, is kind of totally unknown, but is the standard for sending data between musical devices. So if you press a key on a piano keyboard, it will have what note you're playing, how hard you've pressed it, and some other information even, depending on the device. And so I was really curious about using that. I'm originally a piano player. I haven't played piano much recently, but that was what I played first. And I'm really interested in ways of kind of breaking my piano playing as well. And I was, at the same time, I was playing around with little radio transmitters and radio receivers, which are really fun components to play with, because you can just buy really totally fine working digital ones for like a few dollars each, like totally amazing. And so I just kind of put two and two together in my head, and I was like, oh, well, what if when I played a key on my keyboard, it triggered listening into a radio station on a radio? And then I always kind of love the idea of having things as self-contained instruments. And so I kind of packaged it all up in a biscuit tin, les galettes de la mère Poulard or something like that, and really well-known kind of French cookie, and particularly a type of cookie from the region of where my dad's family is from. So it kind of works really well. And put a teensy so it was listening to my keyboard playing and figuring out which notes I was playing, but not transmitting the notes I was playing at all, and only triggering radio notes. Right. And it became this wonderful kind of exploratory thing. And I think the thing that became really fun and playable about it is that there's like it's a constantly shifting instrument, right? Because it's not like I find a note and I'm like, oh, that sounds really cool, right? And I can just keep playing that, because actually what I'm doing is I'm finding a note that's a radio station. So when I play it once, it's just like all I'm hearing is a tiny little sliver of a snapshot of that radio. Because meanwhile, time's moving on, right? Like life is moving on, right? Like we can only tune in to the moment that we're playing, right? So I play it and I'm like, oh, that's really cool, boom. And then a second later, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go back and hit that E flat again, and it's like something else,
here anymore.
So
yeah.
Right? It's gone.
Whatever you create just exists in that one moment and can never exist again.
Yeah. And that's something that I kind of try to keep coming back to, because that's something that's really, it's a really magical thing, I think, to try to create that.
Yeah. So for the sake of the audience, I think it would be lovely to show, because I've got the video up right now, just to switch the sound on so that they can
do it. Go for it.
What this sounds like, because it really is quite beautiful. Like. I love it when you get the, like, those little clips of the, you know, because you'll get bits that sound like, you know, music loops or something, and then you'll get bits which are clearly people talking, or the, you know, the fuzz, and they add this extra little, like, spark to it. I don't know what it is.
Well, and I think the other thing as I'm watching that video is occurring to me is that I recorded that video in Edinburgh, right? So like that one of the things, so it's not only that it's the time that you are hearing those notes, but it's also the place, right? That like these radio stations will be different. Like if I were even just to walk a mile down the road, it will sound different. And not to mention if I bring it here, it'll be all like, or if I do it here, it'll sound like cool hipster college radio stations. And if I go 30 miles away, it'll be all like apocalypse preachers, right? So it's like this kind of really, you get these different, there's time that's moving, and then there's place that can move as well. And so what you're doing is just like finding a little cross section of those two things at any given moment.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I'm glad you like it.
And yeah, it's not the only project you made where you use environmental variables as a way to add sort of randomness in what you can expect as a result. Of course, we won't show it, I think, because I think we will go for the mushroom. But there is a thing about fans. So the audience may be lost right now, and that's completely normal. But yeah, you have this project that is called Currents, with a lot of computer fans. And depending on the weather data you are collecting in real time, it will, well, change the behavior of the fans. But there is one that is crazy, one that is exceptional, one that is so weird that I didn't find anything that is really close to that. It's the secret sounds of Spores. So I will try to describe this. It's a contraption with custom lasers, hardware and software to make music in response to the movement of the spores that drop off mushrooms at every moment.
You got it.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it was an amazing project. Really, one of the most kind of magical moments I think I've had is, I mean, I think the thing I always have to tell people whenever I show them this project, like you can see in the video there, is like, though that's what you see. Like it's really hard to say this. It's like, you know, this video that I'm showing you now, and you can see these spores falling through this laser under mushroom. That's real. Like, you know, there's this thing where you have to kind of like really clarify that, like, yeah, if you take a mushroom, you go and pick any mushroom outside and protect it under a glass jar or something and point a laser underneath it, chances are you will see the spores falling. It's this like incredible invisible thing that's happening all of the time. You know, mushrooms drop literally millions of spores all of the time. Even ones you get from the store, even ones that you buy in a supermarket, if they've been refrigerated, you have to let them sit for a while and everything. But it is possible. You can get a portobello mushroom, and eventually, if you do everything just right, you will shine a laser underneath it and you will see the spores falling. It works a lot better with a fresh mushroom, but this point stands. The only thing is that they are so minuscule and so delicate that and they're designed to be this way, that the tiniest little puff of air will make them disappear immediately. So you cover them up with a glass jar and get a green laser. They're mostly not illegal, and you can just point it under the laser, and it works, and you can see them. And so I just had this kind of chance encounter with a friend of mine at Edinburgh, Patrick Hickey, who basically does that stuff for a living. And he showed these things to me, and it was just like, wow, we got to play with this. We got to do something. And so we kind of devised this whole system for triggering sounds, and it was basically just like a year-long exploration of what we could do, and making them control instruments and play actual physical instruments. That was really important to me, that it wasn't just triggering software, but that it was actually physically controlling things that move. And yeah, it's been great. I've shown it in a bunch of different settings, but it really works well if it's just a small thing, just one mushroom, one laser, a few instruments, and you're there and you're sitting in front of it and you can see it and you can hear these things around you. It's super fun.
It's a very meditative experience, I assume, or contemplative, or both, which is also something, a sort of pattern or a theme that we can see in other works you did, like most of the stuff you did with candles, but I'm thinking specifically about prayer and request, which is also an instrument and also related to a form of contemplation, but not at all in the same way, like a different take on this. So maybe you can talk about it directly.
I'm really enjoying talking through all these projects. I don't get a chance to talk about them all that much, to talk about like lots of projects at once. The prayer request one is, it's interesting because it's for me, it's a project I have, it's like a theme and a sort of it's a set of material that I've tried to play with in a number of different ways. And the material is these videos that people upload to YouTube, basically. And it's video, almost always selfie camera, cell phone videos of people asking for your prayers for some issue that they have. And it's an incredibly common thing. I mean, probably 100 get uploaded a day or something from around the world. They're mostly American, but not entirely. They are, and they really tend to fall into a few different camps. You know, it's either people who are out of money, or they've had some kind of, in America, they've had some sort of health emergency, or they've had, they believe that the government is coming after them. There's a lot of that, or they believe there's a lot of unnamed kind of evils, you know, that especially relatives will have succumbed to, and which is usually kind of, it's generally lightly hinted at that it's some sort of like sexuality issue. You know, they're worried that their nephew is gay or something. And there'll be, so there's this kind of family of videos, and they'll say, oh, I really need your prayers. Can you please pray for me? My name is Gareth. I'm in Nebraska, and just pray for me. And so there's this where things need to be named. You know, people need to know what, God needs to know what his name is, right? Or else he won't know where the prayer is going. And we need to mention him. And, you know, these videos will have like 6 views, you know, and it's like, and it's just like, it's heart-wrenching and intense, and also really revealing of a whole set of societal and human issues, right? So I just find it totally, I find them incredibly uncomfortable to watch for a number of reasons, and super fascinating. So I've kind of started working on a whole pile of projects where I use them. I made a kind of abstract 3D walking game where you go through and you can hear all of these. I'm not even sure if I released that, but I've talked about it online. And I've made like the candle instrument that you mentioned, where when you light each candle that you light, you will hear one of these prayer requests. I made an installation version of that. I made an instrument version of that where the candles manipulate the sounds in different ways so that you just hear little fragments of each prayer, which is amazing too, because you start hearing the kind of things that bring them together. You know, they all start with the same 3 or 4 words. It's all like, hey, you guys, hello, like, hey guys, hello, brothers and sisters in Christ, or like something like that. And it's always some kind of combination of words like that. And so if you play 6 of these, but just the first 5 seconds of each one, then you'll start hearing like, hey you guys, hear Jesus, hear you guys. So you start hearing like the things that bind them together, right? Which is super fascinating. And then you're listening to them, and so does that mean, by amplifying them, literally, am I making their prayer requests travel further? Am I making God hear them more? Or, you know, it's a really uncomfortable set of questions that it brings up for me. So I've kind of played around a lot with that in a few different ways, and I want to keep going with it. It's really, it's a whole topic that I find contemplative, absolutely. Like sometimes I just will sit there and trigger a bunch of these sounds and just sit and listen to them. It's this kind of, I mean, really quite intense.
Having watched the video, the way that the sounds kind of sort of, they flicker in and out, they come in and out as the candle is influencing, making them louder and softer. And it really is kind of quite moving, you know, because it makes the voices feel so distant. I found it like, you know, just watching the preview video was quite, just quite intense, you know?
Yeah, it is. And I think it's interesting because, so I used the same technique, the same system to make a game called Candlelight Super Fight, which was just like a candle-based game. And it's exactly the same types of sensors and the same candles. And it's interesting how you can use that same kind of flickery data to do, if you apply it to sound and somebody talking, then yeah, it gives you this kind of like, oh, like they're just out of reach feeling.
Yes,
but when you apply it to like scoring points, it's like, oh, come on, stay lit, right? So it's like, it shows that you can really manipulate data and feelings in different ways. But the tech behind that is also stupidly simple. Like it's for anybody who wants to do this stuff, it's literally just a light sensor, an LDR, which, like, you know, they cost like 30 cents. That's like positioned as closely as possible to a candle without it burning, and that's it, right? So I'm just using light sensing, but just very closely, basically like as close as possible to a candle, and then seeing what data I get, and then coding accordingly or building accordingly.
Yeah, and I'm coming back to the idea that you basically use a material that conveys emotion. What I mean by that is that usually in music, you have many ways to express yourself. So of course, the rhythm, the pitch, you can even go atonal and not use tonality and keys anymore. But these are the parameters we play on, and the sound texture, the sound design is something that is a bit more modernly used, but using on purpose something that is already coming from its own lore, from its own diegesis, from its own story universe, and giving it another meaning is something that we find also in other works of yours. And this is the moment where I started listening to the music you were making. I knew your games before that, Ruffle Pillar and Candlelight, etc. But listening to the music with this mindset is awesome. And I'm thinking, of course, a lot about your Sty harp, which is an instrument for playing live music that is based on sounds of a pig that is, well, from birth to plate. I think this was the quote. Yeah. And there are some common ideas in this of using the pig sound and such. I mean, you can.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I was. It's interesting you bring that up, because that was definitely what I was going to kind of jump on, was that. So that the Sty harp was built for Matthew Herbert's One Pig project, which was an album that, yeah, like you say, recording the sounds of a pig from birth to plate, and then building this kind of industrial techno album out of it. And so I built this Sty harp to play the album, to play certain parts of the album. It was really an instrument, really, that was kind of used for certain parts of the album. And then we played it live as a full band, right? So we split up all the parts of the pig, literally, and then we're playing both digital and also physical. We played pig bones and stuff on stage. Wow. And there would be a chef, a local chef from wherever the venue was, cooking bacon behind us during the show to finish the show off. And we were sampling the cooking while it happened. We toured this all over the world. It was amazing. Totally one of the most amazing projects. And I learned a lot from Matthew, who's a incredible composer, producer, musician, who's worked with everybody, from Bjork to Moloko to, you name him. Like he's worked with everybody, and he's this incredible musician. And he has this point he makes very often, that I think influenced me a lot, was that the idea that up until very recently, up until extremely modern times, if a musician wanted to represent something, they had to do it abstractly, right? They had to do an abstract representation of, Beethoven would write a little like flute part that would represent a babbling brook, or there would be the church bells would be represented through a combination of tubular bells and tuba or something, so it's all about orchestration. It's all about the parts that you write, all of that. But now, if you want to represent a babbling brook in a piece of music, you can just go out and record a babbling brook, right? You can just go out and take your phone. It's even easier now. Like this is the case. This has been the case for some time, but like now it's crazily easy, right? You want to represent something, you don't need to. It's completely like that idea of representing something is totally broken. So it's instead you have to start thinking creatively about the context of the sounds that where they're coming from. The sort of, like you say, the materiality that you're playing with it's a physical thing now, right? Like it's a thing that we can actually play with. And I think that working on the Stuyharp project and that whole tour with him and a number of subsequent projects really focused my feelings on that. That like I'm really interested in the sound, what it means, what it's coming from, and how you can play with it and why.
It's fascinating how you're exploring different ways to express yourself musically somehow. Because, yeah, actually, there is one abstract thing that you explored that was very interesting. It was a more confidential project, like something more discreet, but it was your work with Aeolia, which was a sort of jacket or a shirt for a cellist to wear. So the shirt was made by some people from universities that you were collaborating with at this point. But basically the cellist has stretch sensors, and based on the movement he will do with the elbow, for example, he will be able to modify the sound. So that's an abstract thing you are doing about expression in music that is also in an uncharted territory. Also, I have a cello kink, so this is a running thing.
This is a super interesting project. Yeah, it was more of an experiment really than anything else, and it was the idea of using knitted sensors, which is something I think it comes back occasionally as a cool kind of material to play with, because if it's knitted conductive thread, and as what the advantage of knitted conductive thread is that it's stretchy. And as you stretch it, the resistance changes. So it's this kind of like, or the actual electric resistance changes of it, so that you can actually get a wearable sensor, which is effectively what this is. The main downside is that it's extremely expensive, but because conductive thread is expensive. But if you can figure out how to do it, then maybe there are ways where you can just use some percentage of conductive thread and stuff like that. But like, if you weave these kinds of materials, and then, like we use them as elbow patches, if I remember right, and maybe one on the shoulder too, and that worked really well for a cellist as he was moving. And you can actually get variable voltage based on this, like whether you move your elbow or whether the thing is stretched. And what's lovely about it is that it's like, what I really liked about that is how inaccurate it is. It's like so you're really what's the word? Like you're really relying on a material that is messy. Like it doesn't work well. Like it's like there's too many variables in there, and then it stretches. And if it stretches a little bit like that, it's perfect. If it stretches like that, and then it goes like that, then it screws up, right? So it's like these tiny little variations, and you have to really work with that. You have to be like, well, okay, let's make, because then it becomes how you're using the data, and you can't just rely on a sort of linear thing. You can kind of think like, well, what's the kind of reactive feeling I want to get from a sound or a game or a visual or whatever perspective? How do I want to make that? How do I want to use those variables in a way that work well? And it can work. It's hard, but fun.
Yeah, I mean, you have two possible options here. Else you try to control everything, and well, if the material is unpredictable, it won't happen. Or you make it the whole point, and this transition perfectly to the last work. I mean, last in the sense of something you did recently, like last work. Yeah, not at all, thankfully, not at all.
My final work.
Yeah, not your swan song. Not what I meant. I'm thinking about something you did in 2020, so it's recent. So that's what I meant. I'm talking about, of course, the book of knowledge of impractical music devices. So basically, the whole point is about imperfection, impracticality, impermanence. So I love this project. I mean, maybe you can talk about this directly.
Yeah, I'm glad you loved it. It's definitely one. It was kind of the most. I don't really know where to start talking about it in some ways. It's a project about, the tagline was that it was musical instruments that don't work the way they should, right? So it's like, I set out with a bunch of potential prototypes, and I kind of I cut them down to these 3 instruments that I ended up making. And each one has a very, very strict rule that it cannot change, right? And I think that was my real focus on it. And it was, the first one is about, every time you listen to the sound that's in it, it will be, or no, that's the third one. The first one is a sound library that's in it, that I recorded entirely in one day. And you cannot change that sound library. It's permanently in there. And every time you listen to it, each day that you listen to it, it will sound different. So if I play it today and then come back to it tomorrow, even with all exactly the same settings, all those settings will have changed. And it's a constantly, every day, it's clocked per day. So throughout one day, I can play it in a certain way. And then tomorrow, I can play it in a completely different way. And there are enough parameters that we're probably talking billions of years before it gets repeated. But each one is using that core sound library. So it's kind of this play on like memory, and how we remember a day. Like I never would have remembered that day. There was nothing spectacular about the day I recorded. And I probably would have forgotten about it, but now I can go back and remember it. But every time I play it, I hear a new little thing. So I'm like, oh yeah, that was me making coffee that morning. And, or then tomorrow I'll go and play it and it's like, oh yeah, my dog, like I took my dog for a walk, or, oh, we jumped on a bus or whatever. Like these different things that I'm hearing differently every time I play it. So it's kind of how our brain works, is that we're like, it's scattered and broken and inefficient. And then the second one is a synthesizer. It's a granular synthesizer, so it's based on sounds as well. But it sounds different depending where you are in the world. So it's got a GPS built into it that hard codes the settings that you can use to play it. And you have to play it outside because it's a GPS sensor, which is fun. And the third one is a sound listening device that every time you listen to the sound that's in it, it will permanently destroy that sound a little bit. So after you've listened to it, it depends on the sound, but after you've listened to it a few dozen times, maybe it will be unlistenable, and it slowly disappears to nothing. So after you've listened to it a bunch, all you're starting to hear is tiny little fragments of it, but very quietly and fading away. And then when it's gone permanently. So that's this book of knowledge of impractical musical devices. It's these kinds of musical things that are broken and but like they function perfectly in an impractical way. And it's based on this 12th century Islamic engineering textbook, which was kind of, so everything is about sharing knowledge. And so the original book of knowledge of ingenious mechanical devices was the first example of a musical robotic instrument. Which is from about the 12th century in present day Iraq, or a border of Iraq and Syria. And so I piggybacked on that to kind of so everything is open source. You can download everything, the full information for how I made it. And then also I wrote essays about why I made each one. Because basically, like the note of all this is that it's a totally just like a new dad project. like it was like, oh, I'm like life is getting away from me. Sort of like I'm feeling like I didn't have a handle on life and needing to kind of understand why. So it's about my relation. Ultimately it's about my relationship with my family too. So that was this kind of like hugely emotional kind of like pouring of ideas into a funnel that resulted into these 3 little instruments.
was that therapeutical in a sense to work on this?
Yeah, big time. I mean, I think what it was about, I mean, the main thing, really, the big lesson for me was about like impermanence, that like, and that like, I think we live in a tech world which is designed to kind of give us the impression of permanence, and also that like stuff is both meaningful and worthless, right? That like we can take, that like every single photo that we take on our phones is important, right? That we take like 50 photos of one room at a party or whatever, and then it's like, how do we delete one? Oh no, that one, like I don't want to delete any of these or else I'll forget it. And yet, but they're also worthless because we don't care about how many we have. We can just store millions and millions and millions of photos in the cloud, right? And so it doesn't matter, except both of those things are false, right? Like it is not like, they are not worthless. They are sitting on a server somewhere. They are taking up physical room. Like there is a set of memory chips somewhere that are arranged in a certain way. There's a hard drive where the magnetic strip is arranged a certain way because of that photo that you've taken. Like it doesn't not exist, right? It's taking up physical room somewhere. And then plus, like they are not meaningful. Like they are photos that like you took 1,000 of, and if you had one, it would be identical, right? So this is kind of like, and that like, and video and audio is especially is this thing that's like when you take a video so that you can go back and watch it again, and that you can like follow that moment again. And it's like, oh, that's fine. That's good. My kid will always be 18 months old. And that one moment, I didn't miss it. I'm not older. I'm not gone. He's still there and I can watch it again, like, but it's like, no, it's like, he's older now and he talks back. And it's like, it's like those things that has changed, and jumping back into that moment doesn't necessarily help, So I think that was a project really about trying to break my relationship with all that stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, that's very, I mean, I didn't realize it was that not autobiographical, but something in this sense, like, sorry, I was reading the silly message. So, it was like, there were a lot of personal stuff in this.
Yeah, I didn't make it very public, but it's in the actual project itself.
It's not that common. I mean, in alt control, we don't have that many. Of course, we have some. I'm thinking of Jess that we had on the show, but usually they are known for this.
Jess's. I got to test a bunch of Jess's stuff in Montreal last year, and it was like it was a rare example, in my opinion, of like alt control stuff being just like pushing you into this human world, which I loved. I loved that. Yeah.
And to wrap up the interview part, so right now you are finishing your game design residency at MICA Lab.
Yeah.
This is where you did robots for distant musicians, but also other projects like Jump Synth, which is a synthesizer.
Keep it short. Yeah.
But connected to a trampoline.
Yeah.
So I don't have to say much more for this one. Like it's already
it is what it is.
based only on this. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a really brilliant residency here. I've got to kind
2
of
years.
2
Right?
years. It was meant to be 1 year, and then I got a bonus pandemic year at the which worked. Yeah, which was really lucky for me. But it's basically more or less half teaching, and we have a really great game design program here with which comes from an art. This is an art university originally. It's like an art college, and so we come at it from an art school background, which works really well for me. So I was teaching some kind of intro to game design stuff, but also my own classes. So my own class, that's where the Jump Synth came out of. I got all my students to make trampoline games, and and then the rest of the time I was able to propose ideas, develop concepts, test things out, and this is really the one that I was able to take furthest was the robots.
And so we are going to be able to play it now.
You want to see a robot?
Yes, I think this makes a perfect time to have a look at these robots.
Here, I'll play one in person. Should I start by playing one with the trumpet?
That would be amazing. Yes, please.
Okay, let's try it. Okay. Switch cameras. Okay, here we go. Let's hope it still works. All right, which one is it? This one.
That's amazing.
Oh, I dropped my food over here. I mean, I can try to get it around the track. Someone's driving that one around. I don't know who does.
Yeah, like for the driver license, yeah.
Oh no!
Oh, that's amazing.
Someone else is to control of another one.
Yes. So if you see, there's a link on the screen at the moment. If you follow that link, I'll type it into chat as well, and you can play around. How many robots do you have on?
There are currently 3. I might be able to get a 4th one on because.
So I can see Bubble Reg is controlling Robot 2 right now. So I'm going to switch.
Yeah, it's driving around
to Robot 2. And
someone is controlling that one. I don't know if they discovered the little dinosaur village that I set up.
Oh, there's a secret dinosaur village.
There's a secret dinosaur village, and there's also a secret haunted Stonehenge.
Oh,
yeah, we can see secret Stonehenge. Bubble Reg, get us to secret Stonehenge. Oh, and it's got wee ghosties. That's amazing. So it's got to.
Oh, that's the one controlled by Bubble Reg.
Yeah, whoever's doing it is doing a brilliant job. I mean, they're really smashing it out.
Okay, we have professionals here.
Yeah.
I
Really
feel like
flying
we need
around
to
the
join
place.
in. We need to go racing with them.
Yeah, I'm going to
You ready?
play. Yeah. Up. Hopefully,
There's a traffic jam happening over there. I don't know if, I never quite know whether I should, help people or not. Oh, yeah.
There's it. Oh, so can you hear? Should be able to get.
Can you hear the keyboard?
Yeah, we
I
can
think
hear
it's
the keyboard
working.
here. Let's.
I hope this is not too much of a mess, but that's the point, right?
Oh,
I hope you enjoyed this one-note melody.
It does end up being a lot of one-note melodies. It's one of the downside of musical control of these things.
So we're on board.
How do I
think
move
we're
backward?
On board with Tatiana's at the moment. If I let's see, switch over to. Is that the one? Ah, there we go. And now we can see the whole arena.
I might move the one I was controlling out of the way here.
Is the one you've got connected to Zoom? Is that working for us?
So that one, let's see, my phone was running out of battery. It'll probably make it run very briefly.
Okay.
Here, I'll try to make it run very briefly.
I just noticed the Discord link that we got in chat is different to the Discord link that we got on screen. So if anyone at home is having trouble, I guess try the other one, and let me know if I've got the wrong one on the screen at the moment. But we can see the one over in Stonehenge at the moment. Which robot is in Stonehenge? That's Robot 2 with Bubble Reg is in Stonehenge.
And there's somebody in this one too, although they're a little stuck. Hey, Stonehenge, you're destroying my Stonehenge.
I can see the one on Zoom right now.
Yeah, that one should be working now. We can control
awesome.
it, I think.
Can you switch its microphone on?
Oh, wait. Is it still working?
It says the microphone switch. Oh.
So the microphone needs to stay switched off, or else it just starts feeding back on itself.
Okay. So is it hearing me right now?
So it should be, although it's not twitching around. So I might need to fix that.
I'm just gonna get a big breath.
I'm destroying walls.
Should be working.
Oh.
There we go. Oh my gosh, hold on.
It's still going. It's on the move.
Okay. There we go. There we go. I don't know. I think it's out of battery because I had it signed in for the whole.
That's all right. I'll hop over onto one of the ones on Discord. There we go. I'm joining Celia in Robot One room. So okay, can it hear me yet? Let's find out. Just unmute.
Yeah.
I apologize to the viewers at home for my beautiful singing. I see Stonehenge. I'm going to run over the wee guys in Stonehenge.
Traffic jam.
I'm just putting a fourth robot in now. It should take in a second. It should start working.
I want to run over the ghosts.
Someone's just driven into my dinosaur village. They're destroying my dinosaur village.
Is that which spot? Is that spot 4? I want to see this dinosaur.
That's this one. What's that? I don't. I can't tell.
So I'm in.
There's actually no easy way of telling which robot is which.
Yeah, it's robot 2. It's robot 2.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's me controlling it. I think I've stolen it from Bubble Reg.
Yeah, if there's more than one person in the channel, then it basically just ends up being a kind of like a combination of whatever sounds you're making. It's listening to everything in the voice channel.
Right. I want to try and run away from these. I'll stop. I'll stop stealing Bubble Reg's robot. And I'm stealing Celia's.
I'm getting this one out of the way. There we go.
I'm going forward. Sometimes Discord stops picking me up. I can see myself stop being green.
Someone coming on the show right now must be really confused.
I love it. I totally love it.
I'm gonna try. I've brought a harmonica. I want to see what happens.
Ooh, harmonica. Oh, somebody's stuck up against a block of wood. Hold on, I'm gonna free them.
It's funny, Discord doesn't seem to pick up the harmonica. It goes green when I'm talking, but when I blow the harmonica... Right.
Yeah.
It can hear me laughing though. That's good enough.
It really definitely prioritizes voice over anything. Like that's just like what they want. That's what the sounds they want to transmit are, I guess.
Right. So we're live. We're on board with Tatiana's right now, as she's playing the
Handpan.
the handpan. Hello. So is it responding to the handpan?
Yeah, but totally.
In my experience, a lot of these online communication platforms don't work well with percussion.
Right.
It's because they're like, it just picks up the very beginning and then it cuts off all the tail of the sound.
Right.
So like what's happening, I can kind of see it, is that it's doing little twitches on the moments.
Suddenly, yeah.
So do you think that, like with my harmonica, that what Discord's doing is it's kind of going, oh, that's clearly not a voice, and it's cutting it out?
Yeah,
Right.
and I think one of the reasons it's doing that is because a lot of like harmonicas will have multiple pitches going on. Like I bet if you were to like very carefully play a single pitch on it, it might transmit it a bit better. But like weirdly, and I don't know if this is just as a result of coding biases or what, but like so far in my experience of all the testing, things like woodwinds, trumpet and flute and things like that, or brass and woodwinds, definitely work the best. And it's like, that's why in all my videos, I'm using the trumpet or I'm using a little flute. And that tends to work. Oh, someone's just managing to push the ball around. Oh, hell yeah.
But I think, I feel like, oh yes, get the ball, knock over the computer with the ball, go on, do it.
Yeah, go. Hold on, I gotta show this.
I feel like I'm showing a lot of destructive urges today. I want to run everything over.
There we go. Good work. Whoever just managed to push that ball around is
Oh, well done.
Yeah, good work. Yeah, this person is really smashing it out.
Yeah.
Good work. Yeah, exactly. That ball might be a little stuck under there. I might free the ball. I'm gonna free the ball.
Bubble Reg, see if you can get the can you get under? Oh, the ball's gone. Can you get the ball?
I've just pushed it. There we go. Yeah, that's the gold standard.
Yeah.
Can you score a goal? That would be.
I can see
really
the screen.
The goal is that green thing I made. Yeah, there we go. So we'll see.
You're not the only one playing here. Okay, I found a way to make this work properly.
Oh.
How's it working for you?
So Tatiana's just robot 3 right now.
Yeah.
And you...
Of course, when I say that, then it's not working properly anymore. Like it's because of you. You're bad luck. Not on my channel, Alistair.
Whenever you talk, it's twitching down here by my feet. It's like I'm physically seeing your voice through the medium of a robot being twitching at my feet.
Oh, yeah, a friend of mine gave me something one day. I had the same problem.
So Celia just saying in the chat, I hope people see your show and go, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
I hope so too.
That's the goal. That's what we want.
But anyone wandering in and going, what the hell is going on? Follow the link on the screen and you can pilot one of these robots yourselves, and you do it using the pitch of your voice, your dulcet tones, maybe play a musical instrument into the microphone. So Tatiana playing some synth notes there, causing the bot to spin round. I'm going to jump in. I'm going to see if I can nick that ball off of Bubble Reg. Let's give it a go. So it's getting the first bit of what I'm saying. So maybe if I go
Boy, who's ever filming these other two is really on fire over there.
Ma.
Oh, that was good.
Ma. Ma.
Oh, wait. I just realized something.
What's that?
I had that robot on dance mode.
Oh, right.
Yeah, on dance mode, it doesn't.
Go ahead.
So on dance mode, it will pick a different kind of movement vector for each note. So that way it lets you it does this kind of like freestyle dancing when you play.
Oh, okay. But does that mean when I was changing my note, I was like, it was just shuffling to find a new direction for it? So.
Yeah, what it does is for each note, it like spreads every note on the scale across. It like chooses a different movement vector for every note on the scale.
Okay.
And then it's applied between them. Anyway, I'll switch to that.
Oh, I see. So are we normal now?
Now it should be much more direct control. There you go.
Oh, I'm about to. No. I'm about to score.
You're about to score.
Oh, you're doing great. Oh, look at that. Oh, you scored. You just scored the goal. That was an amazing
I did it, but I realized it only thanks to the general, like the bird.
Of course. Yeah, because you were facing the other way. It was a no-look score. That's even more impressive.
Exactly. No scope, no view, no nothing.
Yeah, you were like, it was like
swag.
It was like a back heel. It was a
exactly. That's how much swag I have. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That was amazing. I just looked over to see it happen, and there it was. It was like you did this kind of spin move to push the ball around the post. It was amazing.
That was beautiful.
Yeah. Soccer baby, French and Portuguese blood in my veins. Okay?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, we need you and the robots in the Euros in 4 years' time.
Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, that was brilliant. I can't believe we scored a goal. That's far beyond my wildest expectations.
Now I am desperate to like drive it.
Meanwhile, you can join us on Discord, follow the link that is on the bottom left corner of the screen, and you can control the robots you are seeing on screen right now.
I think the static.
And I just scored a goal also.
Oh, wow.
No, I mean the same one as
now
before.
While I was fiddling about with the mic, I was like, you are like showing off some incredible skills.
Gonna go for the hat trick next. Yeah.
Yeah, now a backflip.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I'm gonna hunt down these ghosts again.
Which robot are you in, Alistair?
4. Oh, I can see. I think that's Tatiana coming past me. Hello.
Hello. Oh no, that wasn't me. Or maybe it's my rear.
Oh, you're
my butt. So I cannot see you yet. Because I'm speaking, so it's just reacting to me speaking right now.
I can see Bubble Reg's icon. Maybe it's picking up from your microphone for me. That could be my problem. Let's have a go now. And I've just muted myself.
You're real quiet suddenly, Alex.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm so quiet. Oh, something happened.
Alistair?
Yeah.
Alistair, I think in the Twitch, there is one camera that is a bit weird.
Hold on, Alistair, it should work now. Give it a try. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, perfect.
There you go. That was my own fault. I think I had the settings slightly wrong on it.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm going towards the ghosts.
Not if I can keep you from it.
You destroyed the ghost.
I don't know. It's just not down Stonehenge. Come on. I did it. I knocked over Stonehenge.
You totally did.
What's a World Heritage Site?
It's okay. It's just the fake Stonehenge they set up for tourists.
Great.
You are singing an F.
I'm singing
an F note.
Oh.
Yeah.
G F G A C.
Yeah, I don't have the octave that easy, okay?
I'm Stonehenge even more.
Oh man, someone's managing a really long journey over here. Clunk.
Oh yes, someone's got the dinosaurs.
Someone just destroyed the dinosaurs again. I don't know if that was deliberate or not. They went, wow, they're really driving around here like crazy. Clunk. Right into a wall. There you go.
There we go. We've got the chaos over here. We've got two robots saying hello to each other.
It can be really fun when you get when you're driving a robot around and then you come face to face with another robot. You get this amazing kind of little glimpse into somebody else in the cockpit. Especially if you have your camera turned on, it's like you're seeing into the cockpit of another robot, you know?
Yeah. Oh wow, that's It's like I don't know, it's like, you look at something and you go, oh, you're one of me. It's like when a dog sees itself in the mirror and is like, what is that? Is that
I'm one of them too.
Dog? What is dog?
Totally. It's like it's a self-realization moment.
on board with Tatiana's bot again now.
Ooh.
You've got really good at this. Missed it.
So good. Someone's driving under the table. Hold on. What are you doing under there? Is that you? Who's that?
We've got a perfect shot of it from here. Yes. Go on for the close-up, Tatiana.
Okay, I'm a cameraman, but my tool is my voice, and I have to give like good footage by the end for the edit of the video.
Yeah.
So just spotting some of the Julie Rowland says, Bobble Red saying, I keep thinking I figured out the pitch and then losing it. I feel like that's what I was like in so many moments, feeling like I was so close, I've nearly got this, and then it's sort of scooting away from me, and it's this wonderful kind of,
There's robots driving all over my feet.
Each of those is mapped to a different direction. Is that correct, Yann?
I can't hear you too well anymore, Alistair, but I think you were describing the control system.
Yep.
Basically every note will push a robot in a certain direction, right? So, and the way I ended up doing it was using to kind of split up a chromatic scale into 4 sections. So like on my trumpet, which is in a different key, but on my trumpet, a C, a C sharp, and a D all will push a robot forward. And the next group of 3 notes will pull a robot backwards. The next group of 3 notes, so that's like an F, an F sharp, a G, and a G sharp, will spin the robot in one direction, and the next group of 3 will spin a robot to the next direction. So the reason I did that was so that there was kind of a good chance that like if your pitch wavered, it wouldn't matter. You would just keep moving in that direction. So basically,
for me, it's an F to turn.
Okay, that makes sense.
And a C, a B to move forward. And D.
Yeah, and if you play a D, like a G, it should move it. I'd probably spin it in the other direction, I think.
I'm going backward.
Oh, maybe backwards, yeah. Basically, the idea is if you play 4 notes that are spread out from each other equally, then it should give you the 4 directions.
So,
there's a little map in the kind of instructions section of the Discord. Somebody, is that you, Tatiana? You're just driving under the table.
That was me exploring the notes, and the octave is doing the same, so it's like a cycle.
Yes, exactly. So if you one note and the octave above will do the same thing. Exactly.
So I think I was trying to, when I was doing my scales, I think I was singing up and down octaves, like so I was doing the same action over and over.
Yeah, that's a classic thing. And a lot of people have done that, and it's made me wonder about my control scheme, right? Like maybe that should be a different method. But I think ultimately it's really hard to like I experimented with loads of different ways of mapping the pitch to the movement. It's really hard to find one that works for everybody. That dance mode that I was in accidentally before was really fun because it would just it would surprise you by how it would move. but it meant you couldn't accomplish anything. Like, it was virtually impossible to even drive in a straight line. So like, finally I ended up cutting down to the simplest mechanism possible. And that definitely made it a bit easier. But still with some issues. The biggest issue really is that I definitely designed it for my trumpet. I'm like a terrible trumpet player, but it was the one that I had most easily to play them with. And a trumpet is in B flat, so it made sense for me to do like a C, an E, a G, and a B or whatever, or a B flat. But actually that makes it a B flat, a D, an F, and an A flat, which is a little bit odd for most people. So really, yeah, I don't know. It'd be cool. I wish it'd be fun to be able to make like custom controls for people or something. But,
yeah, but
although, you know.
I think there is a kind of
Alistair, you need to fix the volume. It's so low that I believe it's in the Twitch. We can barely hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for that, but it's almost not. Yeah, sometimes I'm not even realizing you are talking actually.
Right. Testing.
Cut.
I'll be honest. I'm not entirely sure what to change.
Okay.
But keep on playing. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, somebody's stuck up on the back wall there. I might go rescue somebody from the back wall. I can see them.
Yeah, leave my screen and screen, and I'll try to.
Hold on a second. There we go. No, you're doing all right. You're doing it. Yeah, you got it. Okay, good work. Now forward. Who is that? You can do it. You can do it. Come on.
Oh, who's that? Hello? You come often here? That's crowded right now.
It is, yeah. I've just picked up the one that I was using with my trumpet earlier.
That's Celia.
Is Celia playing one? Or not?
Yeah,
Okay.
I saw Celia.
Yeah, you actually saw on the camera. That's good. If anybody on Twitch is curious to what these things look like up close, here's one of them. Here's the furry one.
Testing.
There you go.
Way better.
Oh, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, that's much better.
Right, it's telling me it's really fuzzy coming through to there.
No, it looks you've done great. Certainly.
Yeah,
I love it's really quite something to watch people just like bang up against the wall. Just like clunk. Somebody over there is just like going back and forth. There you go.
No.
Testing. Oh.
Okay, if people at home want to try to guess, because the synth is not working all the time, but I can try to help a bit Discord by singing the note. Here we go with the C to the B. C. Going backward. Oh, this is turning to the left.
Yeah, that's forward there. There you go. Yeah, that'll still be forward.
For me. And this is B. Sounds like the fireman or something like this.
You're also bumping up against some bits of wood there, so I don't know if you're.
I'll be honest. I wouldn't be.
The wood is bumping on me. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Also, somebody is moving the camera right now. Somebody's bumping up against the camera tripod. I'm going to move you. There we go. I'm moving you.
So someone in the audience is saying, imagine a synchronicity game in which robots dance together as their operators play the controls. So
Yeah.
it's not exactly this, but online there is a version with a trumpet that is basically a choreography controlled through the trumpet, and another one with another instrument. So I think there is a guitar, but it's more like for testing. A flute. Am I missing an instrument you tried online?
Let's see, what have we done? We've done trumpets, guitars, flutes. I had somebody, let's see, what else has anybody played? I did have somebody trying to play like xylophones and stuff, but it didn't work as well.
Percussion.
But yeah, that kind of falls into that percussion problem. A lot of people like to try to do voice, and voice is a funny thing because like it's actually really hard to keep like strict pitches of a sound. Like it's so, you really have to be very well trained, very well trained singer to consistently play the same pitch, sing the same pitch.
And warm up, I'd say too. Even a really good singer, can an uncomfortable note, a note that is not in his mixed voice or something. It can be hard.
And it's just not a natural method of singing. It's like, like it's not like a way of.
Someone tried with a metallophone, and I suspect it's the metallophone we use in Le Sphinx, which is a game I made not long ago with a musical instrument. Did it work? People in the chat.
Oh, that would be cool.
How does the metallophone? What if you sing a song?
I can imagine it being problematic.
Yeah, like the xylophone, I assume.
So someone this. These wood bits are really causing issues over here. I'm gonna have to figure out some. Hold on.
It didn't work well, the metallophone.
Okay. Here you go, guys.
Okay, thank you. Now I can make more mess. Okay. Oh, it's the other way.
Sorry, Celia.
I'm fighting with Celia. Oh no, you saw Celia in your cam. Yeah. Because I'm fighting with someone right now.
This is Robot 2, whoever that is.
Oh, Bubble Ray. Okay. The war starts now.
Bubble.
Prepare your battle cry. No, it's not working. Okay.
It's okay.
So I think my mic is back to normal.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So that's good. I'm back on board with Tatiana's bot. But yeah, so my experience with trying to do the singing, like, it was quite, because I knew in advance that, at least I had it in my head that everything was split up in an octave and each of the 8 main notes does something in the octave. So in my head, I was thinking, okay, what does a major scale go like? What does an arpeggio go like? Like, what is a separation of notes? And I really had to go through some kind of mental kind of gymnastics to try and figure that out. But I think that's kind of quite interesting. Like, when you're talking about sort of as a, when you're singing, you have to be quite accurate with your singing. I'm not a trained singer, as you can tell. But as an exercise to kind of to train myself to understand my voice and understand, how the notes are placed and everything, and I felt like if I practiced, if I got to the point where I could consistently pilot in the direction I wanted to go at all times, then that would be really good voice control. It would be a really nice kind of training exercise for me. Yeah, and I mean I think that's it. Is like there's the oh, somebody's stuck on another piece of wood. I think there's definitely something interesting about kind of forcing somebody to use. There you go. Forcing somebody to use
like, I mean, that's all controllers in a nutshell, right? Like forcing people to use a control method that they're not used to, making them kind of uncomfortable about it, and thus, eating the playing field, and also just making it kind of funny, right, to play a game. But there's also, like, to me, there's a kind of slightly more sinister underlying message in all that, is that it's like people in the game world, there's this kind of assumption that you can use a games controller, right? Or there's an assumption that you can use a keyboard and a mouse. And that, like, actually, that's a really problematic assumption. Like, that's hugely, like, I find I get really annoyed about all that, because it's like, even, there are people who may not physically be able to use those controls, but also maybe they just never learned, right? Like, or never were, like, I didn't have friends. Like, I didn't have friends who had video games. I never learned how to play video games, so I'm bad at video games, right? So, like, does that make it, like, hard? Like, does that mean I'm not allowed to play these games? Does that mean I can't play, like, I don't know, COD Blops or whatever? Like, I think, so, like, to me, it's like, I love this idea of just being like, yeah, you want to play this game? You got to, like, sing. You got to learn a whole new thing that you've never worked out before. And then actually the learning of the controls is 90% of the game. If you got really good at it, it would probably get kind of boring. Right? So, like, that's sort of one of the big things about the whole project.
But I mean, it's a nice, I feel like that's a nice, very kind of warm, charitable vibe to have, is that everybody is equally welcome to play with this, because everybody is equally an amateur at this.
Yeah.
No one is a natural at controlling these, everyone has to learn. And that's I think that's nice, kind of egalitarian kind of view. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely the one of the main draws for me for alternative controller games in general is that like, no one will be the expert. No one's gonna like snipe you from 200 yards on using, like, a caterpillar costume or something, right? Like, it's just like, I like that very much, actually. It's probably my favorite thing. Oh, someone's hitting the ball. Yeah! Oh my, I gotta score again. I gotta switch cameras. All
right, wait.
Okay.
It was on my camera, the ball. So the ball was on my camera, so that's okay. I'm just a natural. I guess I'm a natural wearing caterpillar costumes every day, okay?
Yeah. Some of us are born in caterpillar costumes.
Someone's also stuck up against the goal post there. There's a real issue with the first person cameras on these things, because they're basically just mounted phones, right? And, like, actually you get a really poor view, like, of what you're running into, because the cameras are placed in a location that doesn't give you a great picture of what you're running into. Really, they should be kind of fisheye cameras, I guess, because very often I'll see people just, like, the side of their robot is bumping up against something and they have no idea that that's happening.
Yeah.
Although it's funny to watch from the outside, so there's that.
Yeah.
Oh, they got it. The ball in the sight.
What would happen if you mounted the camera, like, above the robot, so you get a kind of vertical view of it? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, I mean, that's something I put a lot of kind of thought into, is like, what should be the view here? And my kind of, it ended up being a bit of a what's the word? Like, a compromise, I guess, was because I definitely think there's something great about seeing a bigger view of the room and, like, seeing these robots driving around. But there's something really magical about the first person view, right? About, like, running into that ball and seeing that ball, right? Is totally, oh man, another goal. Very close.
And
anyway.
yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm so good at this. Yeah. So now we have to start an esports with this, okay?
But yeah, it's interesting because then I did try, like, sticking an overhead cam into a voice channel instead of this first person cam, and used that as a bit of a test. And actually, like, it was too much. Like, there were too many variables in a way, because, like, already you're, like, it's so hard to control one of these robots, right? Like, it's incredibly hard. Then on top of it, you're like needing to work out the perspective that you're seeing. And then on top of it, you're trying to work out like which robot you are and where you are in the room. And okay, so is it forward or back? So it ends up being too complicated. And also there's some technical reasons behind it that like, we would need, and we can't put one overhead camera into multiple Discord voice channels, right? You have to have a different camera in each one.
Right.
Or we'd have to have some sort of complex virtual camera setup, which I guess might work. But like it just gets quite hard to set up having an individual overhead camera for each one. We'd have to have an overhead camera per robot.
Yes.
So there were all these kind of like little weird decisions I had to make that ended up in the end. I was like, you know what? First person camera when you jump into the robot, and that's it. If you want to see the overhead view, you can go into the main stadium voice channel and you'll see an overhead camera that will show you the kind of overall layout of the game. So I'm not sure it's the best solution, but it's the one I've come up with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think but there is this nice kind of, the illusion it gives off, the vibe it gives off of having the first person is that this is like your surrogate, is that it has that kind of embodiment of, I am now inside the robot, and that is part of the sort of strange, the strange unreal or hyperreal or whatever kind of quality of it, that feel.
Yeah, I think that metaphor becomes really important when you're trying to control one of these things. It's like you need to have that. I think having first-person control gives that better, or first-person view gives a better feeling of you are the person piloting this, and you've jumped in. And then coming face to face with another one and seeing the other person, it also reinforces that. So it becomes this kind of nice, like you're actually sitting there. You've become a miniature little like robot controller.
Yes. I like that. I have become a little miniature robot. I think that is exactly, that is actually quite like what it feels like, because the way I am moving my new robot body, and the way I move my new robot body is unfamiliar, which is precisely how it would feel to have a new robot body.
Yeah, exactly. Which, for some reason you have to sing to control, but yes. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, I think it's that. It's jumping in and being like, this is your new reality. Like, how are you going to deal with it, right? And I mean, it has occurred to me that like I would love to like get one of those, those like kids, those little miniature kids ride on electric cars that they make. Yeah, it'd be really funny to like have one of those that you have to sit in, but then like play the instrument like with a microphone, and it's controlled musically. So you have to sit in physically. You can physically sit in it and then move yourself around by playing tunes at it. That's the next version of this game. And you make it multiplayer, and you like a jousting version where you're like having to play a horn or something to move yourself forward.
Oh God, I can have a little plastic knight on top of each one. Yeah,
exactly.
Got them off. Oh, that'd be lovely. So have you thought about and this is something that popped into my head when you were telling me about this in the first time. But like the kind of a million monkeys with a million typewriters kind of thing is if you got a bunch of these and set them up with various bits of recorded music playing on a loop. And eventually you put them in a little race course or something, and it may take 500 years, but eventually one of them's going to cross the finish line. And it's like, I mean,
you could do one of those like evolutionary coding things. Have you seen those where it's like, there's this amazing kind of subset of evolutionary coding, I guess, I'm not going to describe it well, but the idea is that like, you just like set up a bunch of parameters and it starts with like a blob, and then you just like set run and it makes like a million generations. And the aim is that like you want this blob to be able to move around. So it'll like grow little appendages and then see if it moves any forward. And every time it moves forward, then that's positive, right? So by the end, after 10,000 generations of this, then you've got a thing that can like move across a screen, right? So that like you could do that similarly with like with the sound generation, right? If you have like 10,000 robots, and then you're just playing a set of generative audio snippets at them. Then like eventually, and then it gets rewarded every time it moves forward, right? So then it's like every time that it moves forward, then by the end you'd have some like bonkers generative melody that is oh my gosh, so stuck on the table. This is literally like herding cats. I'm like having to like I need to do this in like a padded room. Okay, I'm moving you over. There you go.
Thank you.
You are free. Go, run free, run wild.
I'm not running very fast.
We can see Celia in one of them. Hello. She's just driven past. Which one am I gonna hop in? Oh, no one's in Robot 1, so I'll see if I can occupy Robot 1. Or has Robot 1 gone offline?
Yeah, I think this one, every so often Discord will just like totally screw up.
Right. Fairly well, Robot 1. You're a good robot.
Doesn't take long. Okay, I think Robot 1 is back in action.
I'm going to try hopping. I've hopped into Robot 2 with Celia. So, apologies if I steal your robot, Celia. Because I think my microphone's back working again, so.
Collision.
Yeah, this is like Robot Wars. I'm attacking. See if I can reverse and sort of go face to face with this other bot. Just talking seems to be about right.
One of the robots needs a pit stop. It lost its tire. I'm gonna have to down here.
In how many seconds can you do this?
Quick, Formula One, let's go. You're gonna get hired anytime soon. There we go. There we go.
I went through the arch. I don't know why I feel like I've taken on a slightly destructive urge whenever I go on one of these things. It all goes a bit Robot Wars.
I mean, we can have one where then there's a certain note that unleashes a weapon or something.
Oh yeah, go full Mad Max with this.
Yeah.
I want fire, like flamethrowers on the side.
Bites out of the wheels.
Exactly. And the little knife.
Yeah.
Just in the front, like you can stab quickly. Yeah.
But then there needs to be a note that you can sing or play that will just like, throw.
Yeah, sure. See.
Or maybe a throw or something to like try to get the whole like the robot all wet and like fry the surface.
Oh, death by water.
Yeah.
I see what you're going for. Yeah.
You only have one water balloon, so you have to use it really carefully.
After that, you're just a prey.
Yeah, exactly. Wait it out. Go and hide under the table.
The Purge, but for robots. Okay. Every robot crime is legal tonight for 24 hours.
I love you can see the like. It's quite fun, like when when you were talking there, I could see your bot wiggling around. So it's like it's doing your arm gestures for you, you know. Oh.
Yeah, the little talking thing is like, it's amazingly responsive, especially if you do it in person. If you're doing it like locally or just using a microphone straight into the robot, it can just be like so satisfying to just talk at these motors and have them just be like,
right. So, I mean, you talked about from and I'm just going to let this dance around while I talk. But
Yep.
you know, like you talked about how it, like, you know, you had to kind of work around all the different systems that Discord and Zoom and things like that use to kind of soften your sound, to tidy it up, or to you know, make it fit into tiny packets it can send over the internet and all that. Like, did the process of making these and making this kind of vocal input, I mean, did it teach you anything about how that works? Did it kind of uncover any of the kind of the logic that, you know, you weren't aware of before?
It definitely did. I mean, I think I was really surprised by, I mean, I shouldn't have been surprised really, but I have been very surprised by how much how much it prioritizes voice over, like spoken voice over virtually everything else.
Yeah.
And yeah, of course it does. That's the job of these tools, right? Like that's exactly what they're designed for. But it does make you suddenly realize, I think it does a good job of really revealing how much mediation there is now in our communication. Right?
Yeah.
That like when we talk to each other, you know, if you're talking to your family or if you're talking to work colleagues or whatever, you're not talking to them really. You're sending your data to some kind of obscure middle ground, which is being filtered and adjusted, and they're deciding what's important to hear, and then they're sending that along. And it's happening very quickly, but you know, it's exactly what's happening. And I think that's an interesting new territory to have to navigate. It's like the sound to the video too, but it's less surprising somehow with the video. With sound, it's much more surprising that like to consider that like our sound is now, the processes are super, and the where it's going is really weird, and that it's also super asymmetrical, right? That like what one person hears is very different from what other people in the conversation will hear.
Yeah.
Like, and that's not all the case in person. We have a kind of understanding of what's happening for everybody. Now we don't have there a few minutes ago. You had no idea that you were quiet, right? It's like, imagine if that was the case in person. It's like if it's the equivalent of having lost your voice, right? So you would know that immediately. Instead, you're just sitting there carrying on as if without knowing. And there's an asymmetry there of like what we hear versus what you hear, and what you think you're hearing versus what we think we're hearing, right? And I think that this project has really revealed a lot of that to me, even more than I expected it to. I mean, that's what the whole project was about to begin with, but it's been even more dramatic.
Yeah.
Out of an understanding than I think I realized.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, is there a sense that like, you know, the ownership of our voice, you know, like, I mean, obviously, like there is something in real life, you know, my voice in my head does not sound like it does, you know, when other people hear it, and that's quite unsettling in some ways. And I'm sure we all, I mean, most of us don't like to hear the sound of our own voice, like, or at least not in recordings. But like that sort of sense of, well, I think there's something weird because, you know, when you're talking in person, it's like, yeah, I don't own the version of my voice that you hear, but it's gone so fast that it doesn't matter in a way. You know, that sound is lost to the ether, that is lost to time. But when it's all digitally mediated, something else is going on there. It is being turned into an object in some way. And that's sort of like, it's just such a strange thought.
It is, and I mean, it's representative of a lot of things. You know, it's representative of a lot of the work we do, and every time we switch on a device and everything, like that's happening. So it's a metaphor for that in some ways. I think it's a particularly striking one because of what you say. We have such familiarity with the sounds we're making, and it's also cleansed as well, right? Like, that we don't have an understanding of what is actually happening. Like, I know that my voice is being converted into some digital packet and sent somewhere, and then they're deciding something, and then you're right. Like, that's the limit, and I'm like an expert in this field, right?
Right.
Like,
Yes.
right. So like that's and you if you go, like I mentioned earlier, like the audio settings, you go into the audio settings, and like the settings will use terms like low, medium, and high.
Yes.
It's like, okay, do you want your voice to be cleaned up? Well, you can choose these three: low, medium, and high. And it's like, okay, I mean, I know, like, low, medium, and high what? Like, what are you measuring for it? And so it's like they're not only owning it, they're physically owning it, because these things are probably being recorded and stored and analyzed and used in artificial intelligence, deep learning models, all that stuff. But then it's also that, like, they kind of they're owning the kind of the experience too, right? Like, our experience here is being we're using someone else's tools, right? And that's we trade our ownership over our voice for the ability to use tools. And it's what, like, it's easy. I find I'm very quick to criticize these things. I'm very quick to be the new media artist who hates all these tools, but like, I'm using them, right? Like, I'm using them, and it's like I am compromising it all the time too. So it's just like the world, the tools that we use. And I don't know, I think I wish there was more clarity, I wish there was more understanding, and I wish there was more control. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but projects like this, I think, are important to kind of help us work out what is actually happening.
Yes. I mean, and just an example of something that was happening, for me is, trying to figure out, why, like, I know it goes green. Discord goes green when it can hear me, but why was it not going green when I played the harmonica? That is something is going on in some part of the pipeline that is going, that isn't something that I want to count as speech. Which,
they don't want to hear that.
But it sounds so much better than my singing.
They've decided that nobody else wants to hear that.
So, sorry, just got a couple of tech things to deal with here. What is next for you with the project? Like, obviously, because you're leaving the MICA Game Lab soon, will you be taking the robots in the project with you? What's going to happen?
Well, I'll probably keep using them for things, and as with most, as is often the case with projects like this, what will probably end up happening is I will have to adapt them to whatever next situation that they're best used for. Like, I've been invited to a couple of festivals and things to show them there. So I'll probably be showing them in various places. And I imagine the overall structure of them and the build of them and everything will probably stay very similar to what they are now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can imagine adapting them in different ways. One thing would like to very much consider is to get away from Discord, because Discord, there's a problem. Discord has a problem. The Discord problem with this project is that, in the game world, everybody thinks everybody uses Discord. Inside the game world, nobody uses Discord. People are afraid. And there's a real hurdle there, and I think one thing I've struggled with this project is getting people to play with the robots, because they don't want to jump on Discord. It's the perfect thing in terms of a technical solution for different voice channels in a single area. Like, it's been brilliant for that.
Yeah.
There's a big downside, and that is accessibility and usability. So I would like to approach that in a different way. I'm not sure what that way is, whether it's building my own custom system or piggybacking on a different tool, more tool or more popular tool or something like that. But yeah, so I imagine I will continue to work with them, but I can imagine also that they will be adapted to the situations and the settings that I'm going to use them in.
That makes a lot of sense. And we are sort of nearing time to wrap up, unfortunately, but this has been like a fantastic opportunity. I have absolutely loved playing with these robots, and it's been absolutely fascinating to hear about all your work. I mean,
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, is there anything that you would like to tell our audience about, or anything, or where they can find you, or more about your work, or just anything you'd like to shine a light on, or celebrate?
It's been great. Like I've been really enjoying it, and if people are interested in this project or any of my previous projects, you can find me. And there aren't that many people with my name in the world. There are only a couple, and I'm the only one building musical robots right now. So I think you'll probably track me down pretty easily. But you can find my projects on my website or on Twitter. It's probably the best place. And drop me a line. I'd love to talk about anything, or if you have any questions about projects you want to do. I love talking to people about their work. So yeah, and there's videos and stuff on the Robots for Distant Musicians webpage, on the MICA Game Lab page, and yeah, that's it really. I'm just really pleased we got 4 robots running around and destroying Stonehenge and everything today, scoring goals. I'm really pleased with how it all turned out. I think it's been brilliant. So I'd like to thank you both for having me on more than anything.
Oh, thank you. I mean, thank you so much for coming.
Still moving about when people talk.
That's good. Let's keep it that way. Just checking a last few technical things, and yes. Just before we wrap up, just want to tell the audience that we have coming up in 1 hour's time on this channel, Korean Drive Time will be on after us. So that's 3 p.m. Pacific, and they're going